Hey guys, I'm Michael Cudlitz. I play Abraham Ford on The Walking Dead, and you are listening to the Dave and Creech podcast.
This is the Dave and Creech Show, the only podcast where podcaster CJ Creech and actor Dave Sheridan come together to talk all things entertainment with your favorite entertainers. Want to ask our guests a question? Tweet them to @DaveSheridan or @CJCNOV88, and they may be asked to our guests live on the show. We do have to ask you stay seated during the podcast because this ride may get a little bit hilarious. Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
Hey everybody out there, welcome to episode 31 of the Dave and Creech Show. I am your host today, CJ Creech, and today's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, if I might say so myself. First of all, I want to apologize for it being so late. Normally we try to do it, we're trying to get it back to doing it on Tuesday, so technically it's on the day I want to release it. However, this should have been out last week instead of this week. Today is only going to be me. And that's another reason why I said it might be a little bit shorter. If you remember listening in on last week's episode with Lyndon Ashby as our guest, Dave was talking about his busy schedule. I've had a busy schedule too this past week, but Dave's usually from about 6 a.m. to midnight working diligently trying to finish this house. And it's been very crazy. His schedule's very hectic, and I know he leaves a little bit later in the month to go shoot a movie, so he's not going to be on this week, and we're just trying to fit some time into his schedule to get him back on the show, as you know, to resume his co-host duties. It's just right now is a really busy time. This past week, I've been pretty busy myself. If you don't know, I'm also a videographer / filmographer, whatever word you choose to use in that situation. I film wrestling, and I filmed at OSCW, which is Old School Championship Wrestling, their summer heatwave events. And being a fan of wrestling, it's pretty awesome to actually be closer to the action and get to meet, because they have people that I grew up watching wrestling there too. So, for instance, don't know if you're a wrestling fan, you probably know who Carlito was, but he was there and got to hang out with him. That was pretty awesome, and it was great wrestling. Good matches, entertaining. We got great footage. There was unfortunately this gnarly. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like it was basically a freak accident that happened, and got to see very brutally, very close up, one of the wrestlers, he wound up breaking his arm, and graphic detail, and we caught it on camera, and it's pretty brutal to watch. I posted it on my Facebook page, but I'm probably not going to put it on Twitter for those who are listening. But if you are a friend of mine on Facebook, you can see that footage. That footage is rough. It will eventually be released. However, I don't know when that will be because we're still putting together the footage. It's been a busy week editing that footage, and that's another reason why we've been so late. This week is going to be a little bit different. Normally we either have celebrity interview, we talk news and everything, and I'm going to skip all that this week, which is, once again, this podcast is going to be short. I've caught you up on what Dave was doing, and I've caught you up on what I've been doing, but I'm going to do something a little different. We're not live, but if you're listening to the podcast, tweet us at Dave and Creech. Let us know how your week has went. And of course the week would be before today, not this coming week, because you just started it, so you're not going to know anything about that yet. But yeah, let us know, and let us know how you're doing. And if you've got any questions, any random questions, we're going to be starting a segment soon. Like I said, it's just... we announced it on Twitter a little while back, and we haven't really discussed it on the podcast yet. But what we're going to do is, if you have questions, comments, random stories, pretty much anything, just tweet it to us. And me and Dave will discuss it, or we'll try to answer it, or, we'll just have some fun trying to answer some questions, or read some stories, maybe they're funny stories from your past or whatever. Either way, just send them our way, at Dave and Creech, or you can go the personal route to our personal accounts at CJCNOV88 or at Dave Sheridan. Now, some of the stuff we've got coming up, obviously Dave's got a movie that he's going to be shooting. Very soon I should be knowing a little bit more about the release date of Strip Club Massacre. If you recall, I had the cast and crew on when they were still in production, and then they offered an invitation for me to film a role in the movie, and I went down to Atlanta, Georgia, and did film a role. So the most recent I've heard is it's coming out in September. It's August now, so it could be less than a month away until you see Creech's, aka myself's, film debut in Strip Club Massacre. But Dave's leaving to film a movie. I've probably got the premiere soon. There's a lot going on. Some of the next places you can see either Dave or Creech that's not on a film screen. I'll be representing Dave and Creech in Orlando, Florida for Walker Stalker Con Orlando, the one-day convention with all proceeds benefiting the Pulse nightclub shooting victims. It's a great cause. Everything, autographs, photo ops, anything that's there that you're spending money on is going to go towards those victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting, which is just an amazing, amazing idea from the Walker Stalker Con team. And I'm glad that Dave and Creech is going to be down there covering it and just showing this generosity and love to pretty much around the world. And then October, I will be down in Atlanta for Walker Stalker Con Atlanta. And then I will be down again in Atlanta in November for FanFest Heroes and Villains. And that's going to be, like I said, in Atlanta as well. Then the next time that you have to meet Dave and Creech together will actually be December. The week before Christmas, Dave Sheridan and myself will be together at Walker Stalker Con Charlotte. So I'm going to be getting even busier. Dave's going to be getting busier. We're not going to not do the podcast. I don't want anybody who enjoys this to think that we are just going to stop because we're so busy. Just how it's going to go is sometimes it's going to have to be just me, and probably sometimes it's going to have to be just Dave. But either way, we're going to do our best to either come together and do it, even if it's like at midnight in recording, or, we're going to make sure that no matter what, you're still going to have some sort of weekly representation of Dave and Creech on Spreaker, on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever else we are. Also, we're now accepting submissions for sponsors. If you want to sponsor an episode, if you want to advertise with us, hit us up on Dave and Creech Twitter page. Once again, that's at Dave and Creech, and we will go ahead and let you know our rates and everything. And it's a great time to be a Dave and Creech fan. There's a lot of big things in the works. We've got some good names coming up. Actually, next week we are going to release our interview with Zach Galligan. Now, I don't know if you remember the name right off the bat, but if you were a fan of the Gremlins movies from the 80s, he was the little boy. And so now, obviously, he's not a little boy no more. But we got to interview him. He got to talk about some of his upcoming roles. And he dropped a little bit of what he knew about the upcoming Gremlins film, which it seems like they still haven't decided if it's going to be a reboot or a sequel. But either way, he is involved. And next week, he will be talking to us. So that's going to be a great interview. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for our normal stuff. What I want to do today, because I don't want to leave you with like close to a 10-minute podcast, and yet I don't want to discuss the news because Dave really likes doing that, and if I were to go ahead and do that, then we'd have to discuss it again, and I know you don't want to hear the same thing twice. We're going to take we've been here now. I said this is episode 31. We've been here for 30 previous episodes, and that's over half a year. And we've already had our look back with really how Dave and I met, and, the whole scary movie thing. So we're going to take one more stroll down memory lane, which, even though it's Tuesday, I should have just waited till Thursday and then just titled this the Throwback Thursday podcast. But we're going to go ahead and play some of, not all of the interviews, mind you. These interviews you obviously can listen to on our podcast page, the full interviews. But I am going to curate some of my favorite questions, moments, or whatnot from the past 30 episodes of the Dave and Creech Show. Now, these are going to be interviews with celebrities that we've had on the show, actors, musicians, what have you. These are some of the moments that I enjoyed the most. First up is going to be The Walking Dead's Michael Cudlitz talking not only about the season finale of The Walking Dead, but also discussing some of the hilarious times that they had while shooting Sex Drive. While we're still talking about the finale, I do have to ask this. When you first read the script for episode 16 and saw that Abraham was going to have to be on his knees again, did you start having flashbacks to that episode in season 5?
That was the finale knees part was brutal. It was brutal for all of us. That was 2 nights of all darkness hours. So probably 10 hours of darkness. All of us on our knees for that entire time, and it was freezing cold. That was way more brutal than being on my knees for the 4 hours I was on my knees in the burning sun on the road. Way more brutal.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there was one moment where Negan said something, and that you could see his breath come out. You knew it. I knew it was cold, and obviously it was wet and stuff.
Yep.
When did you guys film that? Was that in, say,
it would have
October?
been, well, we wrap up the end of November, so that would have been, that would have been end, mid to end November. Would have been like the 15th or something.
Right. Yeah,
and it gets cold. It gets cold in Atlanta in the winter. It's as hot as it gets during the summer. It gets cold.
Yeah, it seems like Atlanta doesn't have a middle temperature. That's for sure.
No, it's not. It's like hell. It's like hell hot or Antarctic cold.
Before we get into the fan questions, I don't know if you get asked questions about this a lot, but this question is actually for the both of you guys.
Actually,
I think we have a sex drive. We have a sex drive question coming.
You do have a sex drive question coming, and I've actually talked about that movie a lot since I think it's a great movie ruined by its title. I shouldn't say ruined. I said, but people. I don't think the movie itself, and I think Dave would agree with me. It's like a fucking modern John Hughes movie. And it was like people were like, oh, sex drive. What is this, porn? What is it? And they just turned it off. The marketing,
I
had a hard time marketing that movie. How to label it, right?
I agree. It was a highly underrated film, in my opinion. But my question is, even though you guys only had one scene together at the end of the film, it was such a crazy scene with girl fights and
a donut and a sombrero. And
I think Dave and I had the best time. Was that over 2 nights or was that just one night?
It might have been 2. Yeah, it might have been 2 nights.
Yeah, but we just, and that's when I really met him. I mean, I had met him, been passing, in the hotel, and we were like, hey, you want to pop by the casino? We're gonna maybe go grab a drink, and we never really got together, and did anything. But we're trying, but just his work schedule, or he was shooting back out of town or in town, and then we finally hung out that night that we shot the final scene, and we just, everybody had just a great time, and Dave was just killing it. Just killing it. It was fun.
It's a lot. Look, man, light comedies are way different than shooting something. You know, we weren't on our knees out in the middle of the woods with somebody's head.
No, not at all. You know? Not at all.
So we're down in Florida. It was warmer. We had a great. But anytime you shoot at night and you pull those kind of long night things, people's clocks get twisted a little bit, no matter what. I've never once been an actor that has not gone like, a night shoot. You feel like you're in college doing like the all-nighter thing. You know what I mean? No matter what.
Exactly.
It is, so.
Exactly. And then the scene was wonderfully written and ridiculous, and everybody really, really talented. Really talented. It was fun.
Creech, here's my little trivia to that scene, and people can watch it to that film. And when I get shot, we were staying down at the beach, and there was this beach. They had those beachy things, those souvenir shops and stuff. And I had that beard and that long hair. And we were down there. There was like the place that sold like the bright orange G-strings and the fringe T-shirts, the airbrush T-shirts and stuff. And I was able to put together a Macho Man Randy Savage outfit at the shop down at the thing. And I came to set that second night. Wearing this like bright orange G-string and the Macho Man outfit, and just kind of like goofed off with people at the beginning. And then I was like, oh, shit, you got to get ready. And I left the orange G-string things on. And then, I got shot in the leg. And then they were like, I think that was like a secondary thing, like, oh, let's pass by Billy Joel getting his leg treated in the ENT thing as we get to these other guys. And so I was like, okay. And then we get over there, and that's when I realized I had those oranges. So I yanked them down. And so here's this guy that's like a biker guy, he's got the black vest and the black thing. And if you watch that scene and you pan by, you see these two male ENT guys placing pressure on my groin region with the orange things on them at the end of the night. And that was one of those weird happy accidents that, like, it wasn't like I came to set planning for that character to have those on at all. Like, it was like, I came and I was goofing off as Macho Man Randy Savage, and I just happened to be wearing them underneath the outfit, and then it was like,
awesome.
I don't have time to change. So
it was great.
I was also going to say, Michael got to chase a naked Clark Duke through a cornfield.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, that scene was hysterical. The whole thing. I mean, the mom and dad
trailer park and the mom and dad and
the balls hanging out.
Yeah, the guy had his balls hanging, had his real balls.
Yeah.
Crazy. They made prosthetic balls, and he pulled his out instead.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's the real deal.
Now we have to watch it again.
No, we couldn't even get through the scene. We turned around, and we'd seen the prosthetic ones, and they looked fine, but you could tell that they were fake. And then we turned around, and you could tell they were real. And I forgot the actress's name. We couldn't even. We did the scene looking past each other. You look at somebody's left or right eye if you're favoring, towards the camera. And I was supposed to favor her left eye, and I was looking like 2 inches past her left eye to nothing because we could not make eye contact. We literally, we just couldn't. We were dying.
Yeah. I like best about shooting that film, and there's a couple other ones that are like that. When you get an ensemble, and the weird thing was, it was like, Mike and I are a little bit older. I'm not saying we're old. Of course, that was almost like 8 years ago. So, but there were young kids on that. You know what I mean? The other guys were all like just turning 20, 21, and so that made you feel a little younger hanging out with them. But you're at a hotel, so anytime you have an ensemble and you're on location, and it's only 3 weeks, it's only 4 weeks of shooting, whatever it is. It's different than like what Mike's doing in Atlanta. It's a TV show. He's there for years, I mean, not there years at a time, but it's going into years now, that this guy is down there. It's a little different, so, and how is that, Mike, like, you've done, obviously you've had a lot of TV shows on TV, but Southland was shot in Los Angeles, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
how
that's
is it working?
it's better being home. I got my kids. You see your kids grow up as opposed to when when I went to Atlanta, they were older. They were at the very end of high school.
Right.
But I've done some stuff that takes me away. And every time you travel, when you have a family, you're away from your family.
Right.
So it's like it's like you got like 600 kids now, right?
Yeah.
You want to be near them, like you don't want to have kids so you can leave them for someone else to take care of. I hoped to be there, and Southland afforded me 5 years in the middle of when my kids are growing up that I was actually able to be home, which is fantastic. And we shot the hours we shot on that show was shot sort of documentary style. So typically a TV show will have long hours, but on Southland we didn't. We were kind of locked into. We were shooting 11 and a half hours, and that's all we were budgeted for. And then when we moved over to TNT, the budget got cut even more. So it's like we shot more days because shooting nights are more expensive. So like everything was kind of pushed to days. I mean, maybe shoot one scene in the winter time. So we shot in the winter on purpose because the days are shorter. So we're it's all wraps around budget. We're able to. Because it's wintertime, we still work only 10 hours, but structure the day in such a way that, you'd shoot 3 or 4 scenes during the day, you'd take a break as the sun was going down, then you'd come back and you'd shoot your 1 or 2 night scenes, and you'd be finished by 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night in the winter, but you're home, and it's a large ensemble. So you're not working every single day. So now you're home. You're not have long hours. You're not working every single day. It becomes like a dream gig, because you're just home. If you're raising a family and you want to be there, that's the gig you want, but you never get. It's like the the unicorn of jobs.
Yeah.
It's just like you hear people talk about it, but you never experience it.
Up next, we've got Jenny Zigrino, a stand-up comedian who also made her feature film debut in 50 Shades of Black, and she's about to be in the upcoming Bad Santa 2. Now, she's going to be talking to Dave about her experiences attending her first ever premiere for 50 Shades of Black.
I'm kind of a one-scene guy lately. That was me and Randall. Randall Park. It's a pretty funny scene, though. But did you know that I was sitting next to you at the 50 Shades of Black premiere?
Really?
Yeah.
No, my dad was sitting next to me.
No, well, I wasn't like next to you. Yeah, I wasn't drooling on you. No, I was in the aisle to the right. You guys were on the left, near the aisle edge or whatever. You know what I mean? But if you went towards the remainder of that aisle towards the right, I was down that way. You were wearing a very sexy dress. You were showing off some cleavage there. And,
you know what? Just one boob, honestly. Just one boob was coming out of that thing.
Not
the
bad.
other one was nicely tucked away, but one was just rogue. I couldn't stop it from doing what it wanted to do.
Yeah, but let's get right into that. Go ahead.
What?
No, go ahead. How
like,
funny is what?
Well, just like that whole. So that was my very first film premiere. What was your first film premiere?
My first film premiere might have been. I'm thinking it was because the premiere for Scary Movie, which was my first big studio release thing, was actually in New York City, and they didn't want to fly any of us out there. And so I lived in L.A., and I was kind of still a broke actor, so I was like, I'm not going to fly out for that. And so my first film premiere, believe it or not, was not a film that I was in. It was made. Remember that, who's the guys that did Swingers? Jon Favreau, right. Made was Jon Favreau and his buddies. And it's kind of like it wasn't a sequel to Swingers, but it kind of had that same group of actors. That was my first premiere, but I wasn't in it. The first one I was in might have been Corky Romano. Might have been Corky Romano or Bubble Boy or something in that period. Might have been the first ones that I went to that I was in. But I would say this, I've been married for quite a long time, and I think it was Corky Romano. The press people. This sounds like something right out of like some Hollywood, fictional. Whatever you want to call those TV shows. What's the one with the group of guys?
Entourage?
Yeah, this sounds like something out of Entourage. It's like I'm going down the thing with my wife on my hand, right? And some PR person swapped my wife out because there was all the flashing bulbs and stuff, and people are going, Dave, over here, Dave, over here. You know that, right, Jenny? And I'm like, Jenny, over here,
yeah.
Jenny, over here, Jenny. And you're going like, oh, where do I look? And how long do I stare in this direction as I kind of scan across and, look beyond the flashing light bulbs and pretend I'm actually smiling at people, and say, what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah.
But somewhere in there, this publicist was trying to promote this other actress that was in this other movie of mine, Frank McCluskey, and I draw a blank on her name right now. You could just look up my co-star in that movie. And so it was at Corky Romano for the premiere of Corky Romano, and they basically swapped out my wife with this actress. So I'm holding this actress's hand now, but I didn't even realize it for like half of the line. And my poor wife was
That's
like,
ridiculous.
Yeah, she's like, I'm never going to another one of these things with you again. Like, she didn't even realize I wasn't there anymore. And, like, they tried to get you with this chick, like Cameron Richardson. That was her name, Cameron Richards. And, yes, so funny. I was like, oh, man, I'm really sorry. But, hey. But anyway, hey, the bottom line was, yeah, I saw you come in, but I didn't know you were in the film. You were sitting, next to me.
Yeah.
And, like, on the aisle. And I go, okay. You were loud. You were like, wow, wow, wow. I was like, all right, who's this chick? And then the movie. Yeah, you were loud. Yeah. But loud
like
in a good
way. Like in the movie or just in the hall, in the seat?
Yeah, coming in. Like you had presence. You know what I'm saying? You had presence. You had charisma.
I always have presence. I'm sure we've actually thought was like, who the fuck is this girl? She's so loud. Jesus. And then you're
like,
oh,
that's what I'm saying. But then the movie started, and that's what. And honestly, I don't think I recognized you, because in 50 Shades of Black, you're pretty much the furthest thing from who you are. You were a freaking character. So even then, I wasn't like, wait a second. But that's when I was kind of like, is that chick that's, three seats down with her boob hanging out? I think it is. Yeah, because
just the one
you have
just the one.
Just one boob in this theater, and then both boobs at some point. I'm pretty sure I couldn't imagine. There was definitely things hanging out in the movie as well. I mean, I have no idea what that was.
Oh my God! So, I mean,
at one point,
what I was wearing in that movie.
I mean, honestly, it's the first time I've ever seen a movie open up. You're saying that was like your big. That's been a big feature film, sort of like one of your first ones, right?
That's my first feature, yeah.
Okay, so I think you've made history. Creech, you've seen the movie, right?
Yes, I have.
She was pretty amazing in it, right?
Yeah, she kind of stole most of the scenes in the movie, for sure.
Yeah, definitely a scene stealer, but the thing is this, I think she has a Guinness Book of World Record, the first time ever being introduced on stage that is an actress who's holding an ice bag on her vagina. You know what I mean? Because
yeah.
The America and the world was introduced to Jenny with an ice bag on her vagina. That's your first shot. So
very true.
I feel like you're like the James Lipton of your time.
Exactly. We're inside the actor's studio here.
It feels very inside the actor's studio.
I'm here, Jenny Zigrino. Is it Zigrino?
It's Zigrino, yeah.
Zigrino.
Up next, I got to chat with Tony Todd, who you may know as the coroner in the Final Destination series, but also as Candyman in the Candyman horror series, about his work on the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Another role that you were involved with in the 90s was in the remake of the Night of the Living Dead. How was it stepping into the shoes of something that somebody else has done? Was there any sort of nervousness about doing that role?
No, good actors are always nervous. And if you're not nervous, then you should quit. Because that first day on set, you're like, you should have butterflies in your stomach. I mean, no matter how skilled you are, but I hardly get any sleep the day before my first day on set because I'm so excited. I'm a kid. It's like Christmas. You understand? Opening a new gift and seeing what's in there. I was in Pittsburgh doing a project separate from that, and I heard that they were doing a remake. When I was a very young man, I saw the original in a drive-in theater. You remember those?
Yes.
Some of the best ways to see movies.
There's I think one in South Carolina left.
Unfortunately, there used to be, everywhere. But anyway, so watching the original in black and white in the drive-in theater, nobody wanted to go to the concession stand. I mean, it was so impactful. And as an African American, I see a fellow actor that's carrying the movie, so that sealed it for me. I knew I wanted to do that. And then when I had opportunity, Tom, who's also a good friend, thought he had already knew what he wanted to do, but I kind of grabbed him, sat him down, and just did a monologue for him, and that was on a Saturday. Monday I had the job.
Awesome, and you did an amazing job. It's actually one of, honestly, in my opinion, one of the few remakes that lives up to, if not surpasses, in some aspects, the original.
I wouldn't go that far, because the original was very important, not only to the history of horror. George Romero just tweeted this morning that it's the 25th anniversary of that film. Can you believe it?
Oh, wow.
25. And I think it's already gotten a lot of likes.
Oh, yeah. Up next, Costas Mandylor, who everybody out there probably remembers as Detective Hoffman in the very successful Saw films, but has also had a role recently in the film The Horde, which is out now. During our Horde promotional month, we had Costas on, and he answered a question from a fan about what he learned from Saw that he used in The Horde.
And then I do have a fan question for Costas from Brian Daniels, and he wanted to know, being that you've been an actor for a while as well as Paul, with your work on the Saw film series, was there anything that you learned while working on that you used in The Horde?
In the Saw movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get into trouble and don't put yourself in a position to be put in a trap. They're really hard to get out of. That's the first. You'll understand what I mean. Look, I think that every experience is a learning thing. When it comes to fighting, there wasn't a lot of that fighting stuff. Although I did have some good fight scenes. I think just as you go along, you pick up a lot of tips and all kinds of stuff from different types of choreographers and whatnot. And when you get to do like over 20 movies, and you're sort of like, it's a different movie, it's a different fight scene with different people, but in the end, most of the same rules apply. It's like watching a football game. What do you got to do? You got to make sure you catch the ball. You got to make sure you protect the quarterback. You got to make sure this. You got to make sure that. Sort of the same rules and principles apply. You know what I mean? So yeah, you learn from every movie you do.
Up next, Corey Feldman answers a question from a fan about the status of the Goonies 2.
Anna Thomas wants to know, because I know in previous interviews you've talked about it, and you'd be down for a Goonies sequel, and most of the cast have said they'd be down, and even the director said it's not a matter of if, but when. What are your thoughts? Like, where would you like to see a Goonies sequel go?
Boy. Well, Sean Astin and I actually wrote a treatment for a sequel, because we got so frustrated, like the rest of the world. We see Richard Donner on TMZ, and he says, oh, yeah, we're working on a sequel. And everybody goes crazy. It's in Time Magazine, everywhere. Everybody, what? Goonies sequel? Ah! People lose their mind. And then nothing happens, right? And we're sitting there, it's like a year goes by, and nothing happens. And so I'm calling Dick's office, and I'm like, Dick, are we doing something, or are we not? Or, like, is this a big joke? Is it April Fool's Day? Like, what's the deal? And it's like, yeah, we're working on it. We just don't have the writers yet. I'm like, what do you mean? How do you make an announcement like that? You don't have the writers. But, it's like, yeah, we've got a story. We've got something we really like, and we're really excited. We're just trying to find the right writers for the project. I said, I thought Chris Columbus was writing it. Well, he's going to, oversee things, but he's not going to be like the main writer. Okay. So, everybody's waiting for this perfect script, and I think that's really what it's about. So it's not really me or the cast. It's like, Sean and I got together, and we went, look, if they're trying this hard to try and find something, we're both writers, why don't we just write what we think our characters would be doing, or, what kind of experience or adventure they would get into at this stage in life. So, we did that. We gave it our best attempt, and we got sent home with our walking papers. But we tried. No, it was really, I guess Dick has talked about it publicly. I heard recently he was speaking at USC, and the question came up, and he mentioned that we came in with a good pitch and that he really liked it. But he said, it would have cost like $1 trillion. And that was the problem. They said no because it was too expensive. But, it was a good attempt. And I'm like going like, what do you mean too expensive? You're talking about freaking Goonies 2. Like, is any of the Star Wars movies too expensive? Was Titanic too expensive? Was Avatar too expensive? I mean, when you've got a movie that has the world's attention, I say spare no expense. But that's, it's not my wallet.
I agree that I mean, look, yeah, it's too expensive, $700 million to make. Yeah, but is $125 million or $150? I believe if there's something in that realm, then they're going to make their money back.
Yeah, we could have made it for that. Could have made it for that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they want, to be honest. But all I do know is that it's got to be magic. It's literally got to be lightning in a bottle twice. Because at the end of the day, nobody can explain that movie. Nobody can explain why it became the new Wizard of Oz or, Willy Wonka or whatever. Like, nobody knows why that happened. But I knew when I was on the set, this movie will go down forever in history. I knew it right then and there. This is going to be a thing of classic, a thing of legend. It's just, that's the way it's going to be. But when the movie opened, and a lot of people don't remember this, I did a Goonies event actually last week. And I actually said this in front of a whole, audience of Goonies fans and also some of the people who worked on the film. And I said, look, when the movie came out, it wasn't like the biggest movie ever. As a matter of fact, it was number 3 for the summer. Number 3. And number 5 for the year. So it was number 1, for a couple weeks or whatever, maybe a month or two, but it wasn't, giant blockbuster. The giant blockbuster that year was Ghostbusters. And, now you look at the legacy of those two films. Sure, well, they just made a remake of Ghostbusters. You can't make a remake of Goonies. But they made a remake of Ghostbusters, which I think is a terrible idea personally and looks awful to me, but that's beside the point. But, a movie like that, it's like, okay, you don't see people growing up and going, like, hey, we all called each other, like, Dr. Beckman and, whatever the other characters. It's just like, it doesn't have that effect. I mean, even, Steven's most popular movie in the world, E.T., you don't hear fans saying, like, I grew up and, I was Gertie and my brother was Elliot and we ran around doing, it's a different thing. It's like for some reason Goonies captured this part of children's imagination that even though it wasn't the biggest movie in the world at the time, through the years it has gained so much lore and so much nostalgia attached to it that it just became like a beast of its own. And now it is the most popular family film in the entire Warner Brothers catalog, which is crazy because they own Wizard of Oz and Willy Wonka.
Would you guys ever be opposed to doing it as a sort of Pixar animation? You know what I mean? It's like the characters sort of animated. I
mean, I think that was an idea. Donner had that idea too for a while. He was kicking that around, the idea of like, doing like a Cartoon Network Goonies show or something.
Right.
Which, of course I'm down for, but again, I don't think they'd use me for that. That's, get any kid's voice, I think, but I think, what the fans want to see more than anything, and this is where, as far as I know, this is where the magic, lies, is the fans want to see this particular group of people that they grew up with, they fell in love with. They want to see that particular group of people as adults, grown up, and, whatever's going on in their lives today and coming up with some kind of an adventure that's, worthwhile for everybody to do it again. And that's really that's the recipe. You know, how do you find that? What is that perfect recipe? What's a cause that's worthwhile to get everybody back on board? And it's a tough one. I mean, it's a tough one because you don't want to go too big. I agree with Dick, you know, because if you do go too big, it becomes hokey. And we've all seen what happens with $300 million, you know, studio ridiculousness where, you know, the whole thing does become a cartoon. I mean, it literally is a cartoon. You know, it's so much special effects and CGI, and then it's like, that takes the magic out of it. So you can't do that. But then you also can't go too small because nobody wants to see on Goonie Pond or something, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be, like, right in the middle.
Up next is my good buddy Christopher Barry, who played Negan Savior Bud on The Walking Dead. He was the guy that unfortunately got blown to smithereens by Daryl in the mid-season premiere of this past season. He is going to talk about the audition process for The Walking Dead. Now, going back to The Walking Dead, how was the audition process? Now, what did you have to do to get on the show?
What happened was, I'd gone out for that. That show several times. In fact, I misremembered. I thought that I had actually gone out for Daryl's role, but when I think about it, I think I went out for Merle's role, for Michael Rooker's role, before the pilot was even cast. And I must have put myself on tape 4 or 5 times for the show over the course of 4 or 5 seasons. The local casting for that show is the casting directors are the Finn Cannons, based out of they used to be based out of North Carolina, but and I had read for the Finn Cannons since 1996. I've known Mark and Lisa May and Craig for almost 20 years now, so I was always on their radar. But I guess I didn't really click for the stuff that they were submitting me for up until this particular character came along. And it's interesting because The Walking Dead, they're so secretive that when they give you sides to read for an audition, they're fake sides.
Yeah, so, Mark actually writes the sides. I didn't know if you knew that.
Oh no, I didn't know that. But
so they'll talk to Mark, and because I guess he's the better writer than May. They'll say like, this is the role, this is what we're doing, but they won't have anything to do with the zombies. It'll be something with something else. Right. You're working at a zoo or something like that. But
yeah, like for example, for me, I was actually my character in the sides. I was a military guy, and I was stopping an Iraqi family at a military checkpoint in Iraq, and I was telling them that all their stuff now belongs to Uncle Sam. So yeah. So anyway, but I put myself on tape for it, and literally a couple days later, got the call and want you in Atlanta tomorrow. So that's kind of how fast it all went down.
But hold on, because now see, you were in the mid-season finale, right?
Right. Well,
and you didn't actually shoot that scene then. You just shot that moment right there, right?
Well, what they did was they shot the first half of the scene during episode 8 filming.
Yep.
And then they shot the second half of that scene during episod 9 filming. So it was like about a 2-week gap in between shooting the first half of that scene and the second half of that scene. But the scene itself literally plays all together. Well,
now for the Eagle Eye fans, really quick, is there any difference in anything you're wearing, or say your beard length or anything like that?
Mm-mm. Not really. I mean, everything was pretty much exactly the same. They were pretty meticulous about it. In fact, the bracelet that I was wearing on my left hand in the scene was a bracelet that my girlfriend had got me. It's a Leatherman bracelet. It's actually a multi-tool. And I actually let Wardrobe keep that bracelet over the time that I went back home in between the first and second half of the scene, simply because they would have it and there would be no danger of me forgetting it and not having it on the day or whatever. But I think if there's any difference whatsoever in between the scenes, my hair probably was 2 weeks longer than it was to begin with. But other than that, no, it's pretty much the same.
Finally, our last excerpt from an interview this week is going to be from Danny Trejo. Danny's been in everything. I mean, he's been in Machete. He's been in pretty much every film, including Machete, that Robert Rodriguez has done. He's been in Sons of Anarchy. He's been in Breaking Bad. I mean, he is everywhere. And he is going to be talking to Dave not only about, at his age, running a marathon, but also they're going to be talking Trump, which always ends well, right?
Last week we were talking, how old are you, man? You know, it's not a secret. You're like 71 or 70 or something like that.
72.
Yeah. 70.
I'll be 73 in May. When I turn 75, I'm going to run the LA Marathon.
Well, you heard it here first on the Dave and Creech Show.
I'll be at one of the water stops high-fiving. Never running.
Yeah, I've been staying in pretty good shape. You know,
My wife ran the marathon. My wife ran a marathon about 5 years ago, and you know they say, hey, it's good for someone close to you to support you and run the last 5 miles, like hop in to get you there, right? And I kind of hurt my movie set like 2 weeks before, and I had a sore knee. But I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go and run that last 5 miles with you. But I started running like 1 mile. I didn't train or nothing. I mean, we're talking 5 fucking miles here, right? But my knee starts blowing up, and I'm just in the biggest pain. And she's so pissed off at me because I'm stealing all the thunder because everyone's like, medical people are coming up to me. You know, people are high-fiving me like, you can make it. And I was like, I just hopped in this goddamn thing, right? And she's like, you're annoying me. Just stop. You're not helping me. Because I was like, I'm like leaning on her. I'm leaning on her to get me across the finish line. And they put one of those silver blankets around me and put me in like.
You know what? I actually quit at like mile 23. I sat down and said, shit, call me a cab. And I'm looking for a cell phone. No, wait. I look down. Here's a guy on crutches, right? There's a guy on crutches with 2 gorgeous pit bulls, and he's like him and his girlfriend are like, come on, honey, you can make it. And I gave the dog some water. And this guy looks at me and goes, we're going to make it, brother. We're going to shit. So I had to keep running.
Oh, man.
That's very funny.
Yeah. It's a good segue into Social Security because, you know, here you are turning 72. At 75, you're going to rerun the marathon. This time you're going to finish it, you know. I mean, look, by the way, just you know, obviously, you know, you're a proud Mexican heritage, Mexican American now, and you know, it's you guys have done enough running. The last Mexicans don't really belong in marathons. You know what I mean? It's like you guys you're already running and hopping and coming up over here. The last thing
you don't understand. We're born with the instinct to immediately start running north.
Yeah, exactly. So if a marathon was if there was marathons that went 26 miles due north in a straight line, Mexicans would always win first. They'd be beating the Canadian people. You know
and somebody has got to tell Donald Trump that they tried building a wall around China and it didn't work. It turned into a big tourist attraction.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's jobs. I think the funny thing is that Donald Trump's wall should actually just be a mall. Turn the W upside down, and you want to build the Mexican border mall because that's going to bring shops. It's going to bring commerce.
That's a great idea.
You know what I mean?
There's a huge mall all the way across the United States.
Just a giant mall, parking lots, infrastructure. You've got Annie's Pretzels. You'll have a Gap, Super Gap in there. There'll be skate parks. You need to get the guy that does the Grove. What's his name? Rick Caruso. You know, we got to get Rick Caruso out there and build Donald Trump's wall into Donald Trump's mall.
Actually, we also have to have a huge senior citizen home.
Yeah. This is why I got to get up there, dude. I mean, I actually am. I'm 47. I could run for president, but I don't look 47. They still want that mature-looking guy. Just like you're 72, dude. You look like you're 49. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, they wanted me to run like for a councilman over here. I go, there's too many skeletons.
Okay. See, that's where you're wrong. By the way, that's where you're wrong, and that's why people from Hollywood can run because they naturally assume we've got our skeletons. We are Teflon as long as we go on Howard Stern and just throw it all out.
I love Howard.
That's what I'm saying. You got to go the Howard Stern model where Howard is willing to say, he says anything. He's got no secrets. He'll say anything and he'll make his guests say anything. And therefore, as long as it's out there, people just don't like hypocrites. They don't like hypocrites. But if you could say, hey, I did this and this and this, but hey, we're talking about Danny Trejo's closet, which is actually a walk-in, cellar probably. I mean, I don't know. Now that I think of it. Wait a second. I forgot who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the guy. It's like, you probably have, I don't even want to know what the hell you've done now that I think of it. You're right. Never mind. Don't run for anything.
Well, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this stroll down celebrity memory lane and listened to the ghost of interviews past, so to speak. Next week, as I've already said, we will be having Zach Galligan on, so make sure you come back. Dave should be back. Once again, I'm glad that you got to go through this with me. It was fun picking out these excerpts from the interviews. All the interviews that you've listened to, these portions of, the entire interviews are great. If you're listening to us on Spreaker or iTunes, you can go scroll down and see all of these interviews, listen to them in their entirety. If you check out our YouTube page, some of these interviews actually have videos that go with them too. You can check those out. But for Dave Sheridan and myself, thank you. Thank you again for listening, and we will catch you next week on the Dave and Creech Show.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening to the Dave and Creech Show. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Dave and CJ. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Creech Creative Productions or any of its affiliates.